think your parents' relationship can have effect on your future relationships and how you see relationships?
Definitely.
Oh, I thought you were going to continue from that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now listen.
Yeah.
I heard something in the back of my head and I was like, rah. But no, you see stuff that your parents do around you, and obviously subconsciously you're going to pick that up and you might bring it into your future relationships. It's either going to be a case of, I like this, I want to bring it into my relationship, or it's going to be a case of, I don't want that. That's definitely what I don't want. I'm not going to try and be in that situation in my future
Do you think
relationship.
it's by choice though? Like, really and truly, these
do you mean
things
by
aren't.
choice?
It's not by choice. Like, say you're saying, "Oh, I like this. I'm gonna bring this into my relationship." That's like saying, "Oh, my two parents are tall. I like that.
No.
I'm gonna be tall."
No, I'm not saying genetically. I'm saying like the things that you actually see
I'm
in
not
the
talking about
relationship.
I'm not talking about genetics, but it's just like some things you might see your parents do. You've seen it for so long, it's just ingrained in you.
But that's the thing. You have to break the cycle. If it's something that you don't want to be
that's
in
what
the
I keep saying,
relationship,
yeah.
then obviously,
But you have to work hard to break that cycle.
Yeah.
you just
Yeah,
got to put the
no,
work
yeah,
in.
easy.
That's on you.
Yeah.
And think about it. When you look deep into yourself and say, "This is what I grew up in. I want to be better," or "I don't want to be in that situation anymore," that's then taken for yourself to know yourself to be like, this is the work I need to work on myself. Make sure you've actually helped sort out your traumas or whatever, and then start afresh when you actually get into your relationship.
You see, the sad thing about that though, there could be some situations where people want to get out of that cycle itself, yeah. In their head, they're like, you know what, I'd never want to get into this situation, but somehow they always fall into that situation. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. So it's like they try so hard, but because it's just
Because you got to find the root of the problem.
Yeah.
You got to really, and sometimes that's hard. You have to really soul search sometimes, innit? Because sometimes there's a lot of trauma and deep stuff that's going on within
Yeah.
that you need to kind of check.
To work out first before you get into anything.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah.
And that's hard, man.
It is.
It's hard.
I think on a positive thing though, I do feel like it can have a good effect, especially if like you've seen actually like good relations. So like I talk about like a sample for myself. I've seen I won't say like a bad relationship, but I've just seen different type of relationships. Type thing. So like from my mom's perspective, my dad's perspective, and then my uncle and auntie is like a family unit. As a family unit type of thing, I see the difference in myself from when I was obviously younger. So it was like from a younger age, it felt like I was more just learning. In that sense. So I'm trying to learn everything myself. Type of thing. So I'm
What,
trying.
in the two single parent households, yeah?
Yeah, my mum was in the thing where she's kind of searching for love in it, and obviously my dad was just in a situation where he's just had. Obviously, I'm not going to go into too much depth, but he just had multiple baby mums in it, and obviously I didn't want to.
What do you mean your mum was searching for love?
She was basically just a single as just like a single mother, and sometimes
She didn't want to do it alone.
yeah,
It's hard to do it alone.
Yeah.
How old was she?
at the time
Were you her only child?
yeah, only child,
Oh, is it?
only child, bro.
No way.
The only child. So obviously seeing those type of dynamics.
Do you mind if I ask how old she was?
27 years older than me, innit? So obviously do the maths,
Okay,
innit? So like when I was younger,
okay, wow. So I was young, man.
yeah, still
So she
young.
was still, yeah, wow.
Still
wow.
a young woman, isn't it? But yeah, like so, just seeing the whole dynamics of all those relationships, I can see like the difference in obviously me per se, innit? So like being in the family unit, now I can actually see what a whole family is like. If that makes any sense. From the two parents to the kids and the way that they are around this family.
See, with your thing, because obviously you have both single mum,
Yeah.
single dad, and family unit. You've been able to see every single aspect that there is actually available.
Yeah.
Whereas some people, they're only going to have the one or the
One
other.
aspect, of course.
They're not ever going to be able to say, "Oh yeah, I've been able to see all three," and understand. So they'll only be able to see what problems are or what a good communication is,
Yeah,
and they're going to base their whole future based on certain images
yeah,
of that in their life. Whereas a lot of people, they've been in a situation like I've had it where I've had single parents, then I've had the grandparents who have a healthy relationship, and I've been able to say, this is what I would like to take from their relationship and bring it to my relationship, or this is definitely what I do not want. One thing I do not want is to be one of them Jamaicans that have one bag of baby mothers. I don't want that.
big man thing. That's not.
That's
me.
one thing I've seen. I
That's
said,
not me.
you lot can keep it over there. Like, no matter how much you're saying, man for Avkyal, I don't want to be having
Is there any
one bag of
benefits to that
problems.
lifestyle?
Eh?
Is there any benefits to that lifestyle?
I don't know if
You see this
that
guy?
question, to be fair.
Benefits. What do you think the benefits would
No,
be?
I didn't say. I don't know. I don't know
you
that
asked it.
lifestyle.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
never been a part of that lifestyle, but I'm just wondering. is there any benefits like to have like so many brothers, so many relatives, such a big family? Big
Okay.
family.
For the kids, I think having
Never lonely.
I think having loads of siblings is nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
But as the parent, you can see loads of stresses that comes from that.
Yeah,
innit?
yeah.
So like,
It's hard to balance the time with all the kids.
yeah.
I can assume.
So I don't know. Like I don't have no children.
It depends if you on the relationship with the particular mother in question as well, or father in question. Yeah.
And that's another thing I was going to say, because obviously in our culture, it is a case of one man, one bag of baby mums, one bag of children. There's not all the time where it's a case of you get introduced to your family members, and that is, as heartbreaking as it is, we're just so used to it nowadays. It's wrong.
Everyday thing.
And it's like, you can see your brother or sister walking down the road and you wouldn't even blink to but an
That's
eyelid.
sad though, man.
In relation to our situations, like the story that, like, my dad has tried not to be his dad.
Yeah.
Inevitably, there's situations that he's done and has traits of it, and I'm like, I can see where you've done it, you've done better, but again, you weren't all the way there. And then growing up with my stepmom, I've been able to take her advice on certain things. Is like, with the teaching that she's taught me, I'm like, okay, I can go into anything new with a better perspective. And I know my brother, like, even with my dad the way he is now, there's traits I'm like, but there's like, you've done a lot better than most of the people, and you've done a lot better than your dad, so I can't really fault you.
Yeah, I look at my dad and I just think, I used to resent him for time. My mum would plead for me to just like communicate with him. I was like,
Wow.
fuck that guy, bro. He was never there, innit? Like,
Yeah.
and I'd always,
I've got a question for you after this.
yeah, I never, it's only when I speak to my siblings on that side that I have more respect for him, because I think as much as you weren't a dad to me, you was a dad to them.
Yeah.
And you did a good job where like, they got common sense and they're go-getters in their own right and they have kids.
How did you think that affected you per se? So like, say if you was gonna go into just a relation in general, and then, for instance, you have kids as well. How does that affect you in both standpoints?
So like, for me, as you say, you either take from or you look at what you don't want to emulate in your own. Like for me, I take the good points on the kids he did have around him. He was a figure of safety and love. I take that from it. But as you said, I don't want multiple partners or multiple baby mothers, because I don't like. I want a unit.
Oh yeah.
So for me, I've grown up thinking, see my grandparents, great unit, loved it. See my aunties and uncles, units again, loved it. So for me, I'm seeing good units around me that's like, you know what, that's kind of what I want. Like, especially like when I think the way my uncles and my grandfather was, they were like fathers to me. So like, even though I didn't have mine, they still showed me the love
Father figures, of course.
of a father figure.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like, when I look at that, I think, yeah, I want that
Yeah.
for my youths.
Yeah.
Innit? Like, so if I have a child, yeah, they're first, they're priority, they're first. And I even remember when I was younger, like even when I'm at teens, I remember like people having kids hella young, and then there was this whole thing like, oh, the baby mama keeps a child, and I used to argue with people like, why does the baby mom get to keep the child? And I remember even saying an outlandish statement at the time, and everyone was like, you're weird, bruv, why? And I was like, I will keep that child. And that comes from understanding what it's like to not have the father figure around.
course.
Like, I was
Yeah,
so
yeah.
passionate,
Yeah.
and still am to this day, that's like, listen, I will fight
To have your
to
child.
have
Yeah,
my
of course.
child. And
So, in terms of like, let's say these like some father figures who've had like multiple children with multiple women, do you think they set out to have all these women or all these children? What do you think that? Do you think maybe the women push them away? Are the men entirely to blame? What's the case in that?
You know what's weird, yeah? Not weird, but mad to me. Some people take pride in having multiple baby mothers.
34 children. At any point, did it dawn on you, this is too much?
No.
So at child 15, you never said, let me use a condom?
I did use condoms.
How many?
I probably would have 200 kids if I didn't use condoms.
So I think it depends on the individual person,
It
innit?
does. I agree.
Okay.
It does.
And also in some of the situations, it wasn't even a planned thing. So like, you need to understand that some people go into a relationship thinking that person's gonna be that ideal partner, and they
Okay.
just break down in communication, fall out of love, whatever it may be, and they just happen to be a child now. So like, everyone's searching for love in different ways. So that person probably got to that situation and realized it's no longer for me, but I do have a partnership and a child with you.
Just playing devil's advocate, do you ever think, I don't know these situations that well, but do you ever think maybe the guy was like, I don't know, he really did want to have a family unit, really wanted to do it properly, but maybe his partner he couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle the partner, or maybe she pushed him away where it was just too stressful, or
I don't know. I feel like with that there's loads of different dynamics in it. So like you can't paint that thing with one brush, innit?
Yeah.
So,
I've heard situations where the most outlandish one is saying, I just was with him for the you and then left.
Hey,
Yeah. Like, she didn't want the person, she just wanted the you and then cut. That's going to break that child's heart to know, oh yeah, where's my dad? Because you're not going to be able to explain to him, like, him or her saying, oh yeah, I don't really speak to your dad because I made a selfish decision. It's very weird to me.
that's true.
So you see in that, what effects do you think that would have on the child per se? Like in a relationship standpoint from
I think
when
it
they get
depends if
older?
it's male or
depends.
female as well.
No, both.
And
Let's go into both.
I guess it depends how often that the child sees the dad. What relationship
Yeah.
the child has with that.
Or even how it's told to the child the
Yeah.
situation becoming.
Yeah.
So like,
The narrative, like
yeah,
Yeah.
so like, you know, you have some mothers like, nah, your dad is a useless piece of shit, da 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 da. And you do have even men saying, your mum's a hoe, da da da.
Hey!
You have either side of that coin, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But as I said, for me, I was just like,
Said
where
your
is
mum's
my
a-
dad? And I took it upon myself to not to resent him myself. It was nothing to do with my mum.
Yeah.
My mum's always sung
So
not
good praises,
praises, but at least talk to him. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Find out his perspective. And I had to sit down to him and I was like, big man, what the fuck have you been? And that didn't happen until I was like 19.
it's a bit unfair. Like everyone should get treated with a clean slate,
100.
especially as a child. Like you shouldn't. I don't know. Like the parents shouldn't be saying these things about.
Yeah, because that parent might hate the
Yeah.
person, but you as a child have a whole different relationship with that person.
Yeah, of course.
You might even be like, actually, I prefer
how-
this person to you. That's right.
I feel like at least let them have a chance.
Yeah.
Have a chance.
But how do you reckon that would
I was going to say,
affect the actual child per se in terms of like dynamics they could be in relations? Do you think that could have, obviously it's all dependent on the person, innit? But say there's negative impacts. What do you think the negative impacts could be? They could probably show off toxic traits.
so one of the main things I was going to say is, in relation to the story, the narrative I gave, where the mum was like, yeah, I just want the you and then to bounce, that's going to bring up commitment issues.
Yeah.
Because obviously they're going to be like, depending on what is spun to the child later on down the line, the mum will be like, oh yeah, I left because of this, blah blah blah, didn't feel loved or whatever. Your dad was a piece of shit, and this and this. So then they're gonna think, oh yeah, all men are just used for this one thing, and then move on.
Yeah.
Do you think it'd be different if it was a daughter compared to a son? Do you think that?
I still feel like the commitment issue is gonna be there,
Yeah.
but how they handle them will be different.
How we could also flip that, because obviously because more of like a psychological thing that it could still have commitment issues, but however it could still have an effect in the sense of like you don't want to be like that, innit? So like you're doing everything you possibly can to stay away from anything negative. So you might even just be
That's
more
like
like
the story of the two sons with an alcoholic dad.
okay, carry
You
on.
seen that one?
No,
You haven't seen that?
I think I've heard
have
about
ages
it.
ago, but
You've
talk-
definitely seen that. Like where basically there's two kids,
Yeah.
both boys, both the twins in it, but identical twins. They've grown up with a dad that's a mad alcoholic, like sporadically out of control alcoholic. Yeah, one of them has become an alcoholic just like his dad, and the other one is he's a successful business owner. He doesn't touch alcohol at all. But it's just the fact they asked them, how did you get here? And they both said, it's because my dad was an alcoholic. They both give the same answer.
Yeah.
It's probably that same situation.
that that's pretty much
Exactly.
that's definitely the same. Because there was something I think you said ages ago, and it's to do with the grandparents, wasn't it? There's something to do with like the grandparents, and like you see like those. Okay, most of our grandparents. I don't want to speak for everyone, but generally, like it feels like they were in longer lasting relationships. And however, say I don't know if their children or even the grandchildren, sometimes they internalize the actual how that dynamics of that relationship was. They're like, you know what? Even though there was a unit, and there was a lot of toxicity, and I don't want that personally, innit? So
I think the word toxicity gets thrown around too much, to be honest.
okay, how can we?
Dysfunction. Yeah.
I'm kind of saying toxicity just.
But this is the thing.
like that.
In this day and age, would it not just be toxicity? Because the dysfunction is going to breed toxicity. Because as soon
That's
as
how I
you,
would see it, yeah.
as soon as you're
that's
in
the
that,
problem. You see this, yeah? See, this is what I've noticed in today's society. Toxicity is basically like when you think of the word toxicity, yeah. Say if there's a drink, let's say bleach is toxic, yeah. You cannot drink bleach; that'll kill you. Let's say if you use the word dysfunctional now, dysfunctional.
It's an extreme word that's used casually, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dysfunctional, you can work around. It's more a realistic word because people need to realize no relationship's ever going to be perfect. I think that's what people.
Felt the thing, yeah.
Yeah. So
100%.
any little blip in a relationship, toxic.
No,
Get
but
off that.
I think
That's probably Whilst the grandparents now, maybe they probably didn't use this word, but they had issues in the relationship, but they were more willing to work on the issues. But then again, that's also a bad thing because they stayed in relationships which the love was gone, kind of. Do you get?
Yeah.
But at the same time, our generation probably need to take on the fact like we need to realize that no relationship's going to be perfect,
100%.
and you just need to be able to work on certain issues. And just when one issue comes across in this society, it's a microwave society, isn't it? People want things quick, results quick. Everything needs to be so quick. But people need to realize things take time, and people need to be willing to work on their issues and not just bounce as soon as we're not talking as much, or the vibe ain't the same. You know what I'm saying? The you know what I'm saying? There's always the
The
small
honeymoon
issues.
period's gone.
Yeah. You need to be
Real
able to work.
relationship stuff.
But that's the thing, like, with seeing certain relationships where they did work through certain things, you're like, oh, why did you even bother working through it? Because you were not happy at all. And they'd be like, yeah, because what our normal was, if something's happening, you keep it internal and just keep going. Whereas us now, we have so much options, and it's like, if it ain't going our way, we're just going to go out and find something else.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like you got to find another man, another gal. We're gonna go find something else to fill
It's
that
true.
void of
It's
whatever
true.
the relationship is.
True.
But
Don't go
isn't
into the
that
opposite.
also toxic? Because there's this false. I feel like there's this false image that everyone has way more options than they think. Like everyone thinks just because there's one thing is going wrong, which you can possibly communicate and solve together, you jump ship. Go out there and realise that ship you was on was alright.
80-20.
you get out here and it's like, wait, I found this thing that I didn't have over here, but here what now? This ship's got bare holes. Like I'm sinking quick.
80-20 rule, where it's like you will have the 80% of something in one
So
person.
you see that 120%.
That 120% that you're missing, you'll go and find it and fuck up and lose that 80%.
Yeah.
And now you're stuck with that 20, and you just want to try and go back, and you can't go back.
Find 60 no more.
Mm.
So it is a thing.
How much children would you consider before dating?
What do you mean?
Like,
So how many kids is too much
Yeah, too
before
much.
you go into a
Before you
relationship with
go into a
someone?
relationship, really.
What? So you're asking me if I'm talking to someone,
Yeah.
how many children do they already have
Yeah.
that I'm gonna say this is too much?
Yeah.
It probably depends on your age. How is it? Are the children coming from one relationship?
Yeah.
And how old are the kids? If it's like
One,
multiple, multiple baby fathers, multiple baby mamas,
Yeah.
that's probably what it is really. But in my scenario now, I'm not really. It's probably like 0 really, or
Oh.
just one, one or two, like one really, because I'm young.
For
Not
me,
many people my age have kids.
I think for me personally, it'll be one. But look, the reason I explain this here, because I feel like when you go into that type of relationship, it's not just you and the said partner. You got to think of obviously the other person, and you got to be obviously a good representation to not
It's a
just
lot of
the
responsibility
relationship.
to take on.
It's the responsibility, innit?
In relation to that, I would say 1 or 2.
Okay.
The first one, if you got 2,
Yeah.
what is the relationship with the previous baby fathers? How old are the children? And also, what problems are they going to cause with anyone else that tried to come into the family unit?
Yeah.
If there's no problems and they're of like an age where then they're going to understand what is happening, and you are able to communicate with them and say, this is who your dad is, but like this is who I'm with, I'll be fine with that.
Ideally, it would be 0.
That's not like a bad answer, because obviously you still got to remember that.
That's down to personal.
Yeah, just about to personal preference. What you say today, you might think in next week you'll be like, you know what? I don't mind even if it's 1. I don't even mind if it's 2. It's just
Could do,
you
but
know,
obviously, like, we live in a real world where things happen, innit? So I'd be 1 would be cool, but it depends on the age. I think that's a big thing. Like, if like newborns or young, that's a bit difficult for me, because obviously that woman has to spend a lot of time with a child.
Yeah.
So
The reason why this was asked, was because for the dynamics of the actual question itself. For instance, as a parent, like, say single parents now. We're talking about single parents, man, woman alike, Say they're still obviously you're still gonna date, obviously, innit? Type
Are
of
they?
regard.
What do you mean they're still gonna date?
You're a single parent now.
Say if you're single. Like,
No, we're saying a single parent who wants to date. Okay, I have to specify that.
You gotta be, because a lot of people, if they have a child, they won't date until the child's 18 or something.
You'll be surprised.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised.
They are
No,
some.
no, he said some. Yeah.
said a lot.
But
I've seen
I'm talking about the people who want to date or actively dating, innit? I think you kind of have to be somewhat careful, because obviously now the child is going to be receiving information, and it depends on how old the child is, innit? But we're receiving information on how this person's obviously treating you. That could have an impact on the child. I could be wrong, but I feel like just seeing that could have maybe a negative, or it could even have a positive, because you could still have like positive role models. You just positive stepdads, positive stepmoms.
Remember, children are like sponges, so the relationships that they're going to be seeing while growing up, if they get to see it, essentially, is going to mold them for the future.
Yeah.
Whether they like that relationship, they don't like the relationship. So if you're going to be dating, you're going to need to know what you're doing if you're bringing someone around your child.
I feel that
Yes,
never
around
changes.
that's true still.
Like, it never changes to a degree.
What do you mean?
Even, like, for instance, like, I'm a big man now.
Yeah.
Even if my mum was to date now,
Big man, but I'm 30.
it doesn't change nothing in my head. No man can come to my mum's yard and try to take that over right now. It just don't make sense. Because the
Your mum
mum,
might want love, bro. What the hell?
No,
she can want love, but
do you mean?
bruv, like, for me, my mum's my queen.
Yeah.
You as a new man coming in, you got too much to prove, so don't think it's gonna happen in an instant.
You know what? I've noticed I'm very overprotective when I go out with my
I'm
mum.
super protective.
Like family
bruv.
events, I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't like this environment. I'd rather not be here to see this, because if I see something go wrong,
yeah,
I'm
it don't
gonna
work
switch.
for me. Because in my head, my mum needs to be protected. But it's not just my mum; it's just women in my family or that are close to me in general. I'm just like that because of seeing struggles of my mum doing it all herself, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
That's what I was gonna say. Like, bring that back to the relationship that you have and seen with your parents. That's kind of how you grown up and been.
Yeah.
You didn't have the male figure in your life, so now you've become that.
You overcompensate almost.
Yeah, I reckon it is an overcompensation bit in a sense, but it's also just respect. Seeing how much like my mom, the value my mom has, and the value women have. But as you said, going back to the question, the reason why I said it depends on the age, because younger they're so much. They're
sponges, like you
the
said.
biggest sponges at that point. So like, if you're doing multiple partners, you have to be very aware of who is coming around your child, because you don't think that they're picking up so much. It can be either positive or very detrimental to the child. And I think a lot of people don't really realize that even if you're in like a 1-year relationship and now you've opened the child to that person, if you no longer speak to that child's going to have loads of questions. They might not even say it to you straight off the bat. It might be years down the line, be like, what happened to so-and-so? I used to like so-and-so, or so-and-so was horrible to you, and I remember and they just didn't know how to get that information out to you and discuss it. So it's very difficult.
Obviously, I've dated someone who's had a child, innit? And like, you can kind of form a bond. Like, it just happens, innit? Because you're around, innit?
How old is he?
That's done.
You could form a bond, innit?
How old is he, man?
I ain't got no qualms with the child, like nothing like that. But then I'll hear certain man be like, "Yo, you still chatting to my girl?" I'm like, "Nah, yo, I'm gonna move to that, you know." Like, and I'm thinking, bruv, like, there's a lot in play, and like, obviously, they're not going into it like
They just
thinking.
go to mash. And
Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking.
Do you know how fuckery that is, bro?
Do you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking, bro, like, as for the child,
Yeah.
that's a bit mad. Imagine if it did happen, like they mashed or whatever, like. Child seeing Bear Man coming in, it's just
You see
it
me?
can become a bit
Personally,
techie, innit?
My conscience couldn't do that.
It depends.
Yeah,
like,
I reckon it depends.
it depends.
I've been
if-
in both
if
situations.
she's bringing you around the kid from early, but if she's coming to you and saying
She
like,
bring you around a kid, you're just gonna just mash it. This.
no, but this is the one I'm saying. Isn't it? She might just want nothing serious, and she might never let you come sight or even a whiff of that child. You might never get a one Capri Sun. You might not even ever know nothing about you.
Wow. Man said can't even go in the fridge for a juice after.
I said not even know
Wow.
But see why it's mad, yeah?
man.
Because
It's so dumb.
like
Depends.
before I never dated a girl with a child, innit? And I didn't think too much of it, bruv. Like, I
Oh,
just
sis.
went in there like,
Yeah.
it is what it is, innit?
Yeah.
Like, and then obviously the aftermath, I'm thinking, bro,
There's a lot.
there's a lot.
There's
like,
so much
you
to it.
really need to deep certain situations, innit?
Because obviously now you got to think of there's another person in there, innit? It's not just a relationship between you two. It's a
You're breaking up
relationship
with you
technically.
as well if you break up.
And that's,
Yeah.
do you know how mad it is?
Yeah, it is.
Some
You're
people
right,
it gets so deep. Yeah, some people.
This one's the one, innit?
Wait, this ain't going in the pod,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it has
No,
to.
no,
man.
no,
That's part of the, it's the best part of the conversation.
Talk.
But you see, when you're dating someone with a youth, yeah, you break up with the child.
Mm-hmm.
You have to break up with the kid as well. Like,
You are
but
deep.
sometimes I've seen it where like they may break up, but the stepdad stays in the picture sometimes.
I heard that on flipping the winners talking. You know what's his name? Big Dougie Doug. Son. So he was saying that he was dating obviously a baby mum and see they think he passed, but he was like, even though him and the mother broke up, he treated the child. Oh, that's gone now. Peak. Don't worry, we still got that bit. It was crap. But he treated the child like his own type of thing, innit? And in doing that, when they broke up and stuff, sometimes the child still speaks up to him. He just gives the child advice. Obviously, he can't be as close because that's just very weird. But he said he still sees the child as his
Yeah.
because of the connection they formed.
Bear man like that slow.